from Castle Goring, from Mickey, Aurora, and from me. Well, well, well. I am going to plunge right in with being a boastful mummy because my son Dima was one of the executive producers of a movie that I am going to post the sort of whatever you'd call it blurb on now. Okay, so following which I will, well, I can't tell you how proud I am of him. He used to do, when he was working here, he used to do film work as well. And he's the one who produced the Christmas fantasy on Castle Goring's website. And he used to arrange various photo shoots, things with film people, young people, film students often. And one of them has come to fruition, and I'm really proud. So, without further ado, I will ask Sean to insert it now. So, now we plunge in with the questions. Inbox Addict says, how can we get a copy of the new book in the US? The Amazon UK website doesn't ship to the USA. No, it doesn't. Totally separate markets. Amazon US and Amazon UK don't trespass on each other's territory. However, you can order it on Amazon in the US. I gather it's a little bit tricky because for whatever reason, they have put that the author is unknown. But the straightforward way of ordering it, if you want it really quickly, Barnes and Noble Nook app. Barnes and Noble have a Nook app. N-O-O-K. Okay, so hopefully that will help. And may I point out to you that in the USA, it is coming out as an e-book initially. It is not coming out as a hard copy initially. That's for the UK, not the US. I hope I didn't say in the UK. Anyway, whatever. Hopefully you know what I mean. UK has ebooks as well as hard covers. The US at the moment will have only the ebook. Okay? Stretch like a cat says, Lady C, I've always admired the way you listen, adapt, and stay connected. Thank you. No point having an interchange if it's not the genuine flow of information, insight, etc. in both directions, I think. Anyway, in this instance, your careful research and interviews with select YouTubers dedicated to truth and particular MSM outlets is wonderful. Thank you very much. I'm a biracial Australian and have worked and lived across cultures. I went from being initially sympathetic with Meghan to becoming concerned by the way she represented herself and disrespected the monarchy and the people of the UK while clearly enjoying a platform given to her because of the late Queen Elizabeth. The damage she has caused to race relations and the monarchy is troubling. I'm looking forward to reading your book and to the way you have held her and Harry to account. Thanks for that, stretched like a cat. I have received so many comments along this line, many from biracial people as well, which to me is very heartwarming and reassuring, because really, Meghan had the opportunity of a lifetime to promote racial harmony and do good for people of colour all over the world, instead of which she showed us what a divisive and self-aggrandizing piece of work she is. Talk about a wasted opportunity. I wonder when the next marriage to an American actress or an actress from anywhere is going to be. I suspect in the very distant future. Qatar Set says, according to that hospital's website, they had a celebrity visit on the 14th of March. His name is Dibley. And another celebrity visit on the 28th of March. Her name is Demi Lovato. On the 21st of March, nobody visited, according to their website. Meghan has the same skirt as she had in the photos taken with the children outside Frogmore in 2022. She seems to have the same weight as in 2022, and her hair looked different from now. Her face was covered in a mask. It's hard to tell, but a lot of people think it's an old film from 2022, published now because of the flop with ARO, otherwise known as our right oik. Also a rancid oik. Also a royal opportunist. Well, Elaine Richardson sheds light on the subject. Hello, Lady C and beautiful girls. The hospital has confirmed the photo of the hospital visit was taken 2 years ago. Love your channel. Meghan never misses an opportunity to hustle those buns and pull rabbits out of the hat and show us how dexterous she is as she demonstrates how hands can sleight. Why did she do it? Well, you have to remember as well that Catherine's been in the hospital. Catherine's been linked to hospitals. Meghan needed to get in on that act as well. And incidentally, did you notice in those photographs what a broad beam she has? Well, I dare say a ship that's going to float on the sea really should have a degree of drag. Bradley Benoit says, Harry and Meghan feed off each other. They may detest each other, but suck the evil out of each other. A folie, a deux. Neither of them are anything by themselves. Together they are lethal. Well, they've certainly proven to be damaging. Lethal? Did they contribute to the demise of the Queen? Many people would say yes. Did they help to make the late Duke of Edinburgh's last days on earth less agreeable than they would otherwise have been? Some people would say yes. Is it a coincidence that the two royals who have come down with cancer are the two royals whom they accused via their gabbles, otherwise known as the biracial race baiting pot stirrer amid scabies? Remember, he is a biracial. Bi means two. He is half Caucasian on his father's side, half Caucasian on his mother's side. Now, when I studied math at school, half and half made one. Half and half didn't make two. But I suppose if you're amid scabies and a race baiter and you need to pretend to be biracial and you're going to jump on the Meghan Markle race baiting bandwagon, a claim of being biracial when you are wholly Caucasian is understandable, even if it is rarely not acceptable. Harry and Meghan are the perfect demonstration of a folie à deux, and I go into it in some detail in the book. Folies à deux usually are destructive, otherwise they wouldn't be called folie. Folie in French has a particular meaning, which is very similar to the English. They have brought out the absolute worst in each other. He, by providing her with a platform that enabled her to drop the pretense of being cooperative, positive, and decent, and just indulge the most dark and destructive aspects of her personality. And he, by being encouraged to cease developing that side of his personality which was popular and which gained him a lot of approbation and accolades, and become the rather reprehensible creature that he has presented himself as being to all of us. Are they lethal? Well, they've certainly proven to be extremely destructive initially within the Commonwealth, but less so now. With the passage of time, they have been unmasking themselves as the malevolent influences which they are. Will they prove to be lethal to each other? Well, they've certainly proven to be detrimental to each other's well-being, because he started out as the second most popular member of the royal family, and she started out as number 6 on the call list of a minor cable television series. So he had great and outstanding success, and she had limited but admirable success, because she did actually hustle those buns and become a minor, very minor player. I mean, to the extent that nobody knew her name. She was hardly a star. I mean, I saw Suits for 2 years, and if you'd asked me who Meghan Markle was, I'd have said, who? And I'm not unique. But they had some success. Now they have sparked each other to ever-increasing depths of failure. Daisy says, he will never leave her either. He has finally found someone who enables and abets his delusions and hatred towards his family. This has exposed him for what he really is and has always been. He just hid it before. The true Harry is on show for everyone to see now. Oh, Daisy, I hear what you're saying, and I agree with you up to a point, but beyond that point, I actually do not agree with you. Because he has had delusions. He has always been paranoid. He has always had issues, to be polite about it. But he did not really have hatred for his family. She is the one who has turned his free-floating aggression, and may I point out that the family that has a generational free-floating aggression and hostility are running throughout it, the way the Nile River runs throughout Egypt, is the Spencer family. So I think some of that is genetic. His heritage, his gift from Mama. And, people who are very angry and very bitter and very twisted and very destructive in tendencies, given the opportunity to apply them to particulars and specifics, will end up hating that which they didn't start out hating, because they have found a convenient peg for the coat of hatred. She's the one who has nailed that peg to the wall and said to him, H, there's a peg. There's where you need to hang all that hatred for your family that I have enlightened you that you possess. Remember, H, you didn't know you were trapped before, but now you do. Oh, am I not a wonderful wife, H? I've taught you who you need to hate, and you're doing such a good job. Come, let me give you a pat on the head. Actually not. It's really not a very attractive head. Share the Unlimited says, for anything, this is the service that Lady C provides, to expose the type of personality disorder that the likes of Meghan Markle has. Only until recently, that narcissistic personality disorder has been given the spotlight and clarity. If this information was available to me 15 to 20 years ago, I would have potentially avoided marrying my husband of now running 16 years. People have been urging me to pack up things and go. I'm afraid it's not as easy as that, and I want you all to listen to this. This is the voice of experience speaking. Narcissists will employ anything to make sure their behavior towards their enemies is justified. I can see why Harry has settled in drinking the Kool-Aid. Leaving a narcissist may just replace one big problem with a bigger problem, especially if both parties have been solidly intertwined, children, financials, etc., over the years. If Harry, like me, will wake up and recognize what he has gotten himself into, it will take a great deal of slow, covert-like moves to finally slip away. I think this is a very insightful comment for somebody to have made. It is obviously being made from the vantage point of experience. My own experience of distancing myself from very damaging and disordered personalities, namely my ex-husband and my mother, was that with my ex-husband, it took some really fancy footwork, because when I said I want out and we agreed that we would have a nice, pleasant, agreeable divorce and that we would remain on friendly terms, while I was in Jamaica with him at my parents' expense, spending the Christmas holidays, he and his brother were setting me up with the gutter press to tell lies about me. And then, ultimately, I had to go back to reconcile ostensibly with him for about 2 months, February to May, 2 months, 2.5 months, however long it was, February to May. So that I would end up getting all my possessions back, and in fact I didn't get all of them back. I only got back my clothes and jewellery. He got everything else at my father's insistence, so that he'd stop selling lies about me to the newspapers and stop hounding my father for money. Which I thought was a mistake, and told my father, don't succumb to blackmail, but he did. But at least I got a clean divorce. So, yes, when you're extricating yourself from a certain type of personality, you'd better do it carefully. Otherwise, it will be far worse. Having said that, of course, there were no children involved. When there are children involved, as you only need to see looking at a very high profile and very bitter separation in Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt, that she has gone out of her way to do everything to be spiteful. That's my take on it. And who doesn't agree with me doesn't have to. But I think she has gone out of her way to be as vicious, nasty, and spiteful as it is possible to be. Harry is trapped. She told him he was trapped in the royal family and was going to give him freedom in California. But she's trapped him in California in an ever diminishing circle of contumely, meaning, well, actually, the circle of contumely is constantly deepening, but it is ever restrictively tighter. That would be a better analogy. And yes, I agree. When you get caught up in relationships with malevolent people, sometimes departing might turn out to create bigger problems than staying. But it was my considered opinion with both my ex-husband and my mother that it profiteth not a man to gain the whole world and to lose his soul. And I could not have stayed in either of those relationships and not done severe damage to myself spiritually. And therefore, as I've always said to my children, in life it suits you to be courageous. Now, of course, I was very careful when I reconciled, in quotes, with my ex-husband to return to New York, retrieve my stuff, and get a clean divorce. And I had to play a canny hand, so to speak, including having no legal representation. So he could never thereafter accuse me of having outwitted him. That wasn't my idea, that was Charles Dismuke's idea. He was a very eminent New York lawyer. He had been Lady Sarah Spencer Churchill's lawyer, and she handed him on to me, and we were friends. So, yes, I agree with you. Sometimes you need to play a long hand, which is very, very difficult to do. The danger with that is if you stay and kid yourself into thinking you're taking a long-term view, but you're really taking the easy way out. That is going to be very destructive. Terry Di Matteo says, Lady C, if she wasn't pregnant, of course the palace would have known it. That's actually not so. And first of all, we have no proof, and I need to say this for legal reasons, that she wasn't pregnant. And until we have proof that she wasn't pregnant, if such proof exists and could be brought to light, which I am not for a second for legal reasons asserting that it does exist, there is no way the palace would have known about that. You need to read my book. This is a very difficult subject to handle, and certainly very difficult to do justice to conversationally. But anyway, let me continue. My question is this. If we discover the truth, and also that the royal family maintained that charade, what does that tell us about them? What will happen if we know they have known and also would have figured that someday the truth may come out? What is the fallout regarding them? I can understand some silence on their part, but knowing the seriousness, the line of succession, and lying all these years, what would happen if that came to pass? It would be foolhardy to think the truth won't be discovered, and also that no one would ever trust them again. Their words, actions, the monarchy itself would be in jeopardy, right? Thank you. All of this is covered in some depth in my updated version of Meghan and Harry, the real story. It is extremely nuanced, and I can tell you that there is no way the palace would have ever been complicit with any act of deception perpetrated upon the public, insofar as faking anything of that nature was concerned. I don't want to go into any greater depth conversationally about this. The matter is covered very carefully and very comprehensively and extensively in my book. And you need, if you are truly interested, you need to read the book. I'm not suggesting this because I'm touting for sales. I'm stating it as a fact that there are some matters which are so complex, so convoluted, the consequences are so severe that they have to be dealt with in a very measured, unemotional, dispassionate, accurate, and responsible manner. And that cannot be done on a forum such as this. But obviously, the mere fact that people think that there could have been some chicanery taking place, whether there was or not is beside the point. The mere fact that Meghan, of her own free will, behaved in such a way that she is the one who, as a result of her conduct, introduced a subject and made people aware of the possibilities where the subject is concerned as a result of her conduct, shows a degree of mischief that, you can't blame the victims of an assault, especially when the assault takes place without their knowledge, awareness, and they are ambushed. And I am not saying that Meghan ambushed anybody. I'm not saying that there was any actual assault, but there is no doubt that Meghan's conduct is what has created the speculation. And she, on the face of it, has put the royal family in a no-win situation. I have had dealings with one of the Queen's, late Queen's, senior courtiers with regard to this matter. And I'm here to tell you that I know a way that the palace can turn the tables on Meghan. Up to this point, the tables are turned against the palace. But there are ways that they can turn the tables against Meghan. And the perpetrator of this whole really rather unfortunate subject of speculation can be revealed as a persecutor rather than a victim. But this is not the forum, and I'm not an advisor to the royal family. And in any event, if I were going to advise them, I would do it privately. If I'm helping friends of mine, which I often do, to surmount difficult situations, because most people who know me well know my head is very well screwed on, and having had an extremely difficult life, I have learnt to turn the tables on perpetrators and persecutors so that we, the victims, are not buried alive by them and their antics. But these things are always best done quietly and without anybody knowing, and they are just done. So I hope that at least addresses the issue, because it is a hot topic and likely to remain one until such time as there is clarity, which, it has to be said, nobody seems to be in any rush to have achieved. Jane Slater says, it's very strange how the media covered nothing with Meghan's ostensible pregnancy and moon bump deflating photos on the internet, but they ran with the conspiracies around Catherine. What's all that about? Well, Jane Slate, it's really simple. The Meghan situation is extremely damaging to the interests of the Crown and the British people, and is so convoluted and nuanced, let's put it that way, that it is a minefield that very few people have either the skill or the judgment or the ability to negotiate without blowing themselves up. Because if the mainstream press had come right out and made certain assertions and accusations, they could have ended up facing a massive lawsuit, which was one of their incentives for avoiding the subject altogether. While they knew that with Catherine's matter, they were perfectly able, without consequence, to speculate till the cows come home, because there were going to be no adverse consequences to their actions. That is, their, quite frankly, preposterous speculations. So really, it comes down to their fear of consequences and their intent to avoid suffering any adverse consequences by addressing truly controversial matters, while ostensibly addressing a controversial matter which they had whipped up in part in collusion with California information and Californian initiatives. So you see, one was safe, the other wasn't. How courageous they are. And how interesting that our free press has reached a stage where they don't even bother to investigate that which they should. Well, at least as long as they remain free, they will hopefully remain able to address the convolutions of our irresponsible politicians. That's the only reason why a free press should exist, to protect our liberties. Alinka Zermont says, tourists beware, do not travel to Scotland until this repressive hate speech law is repealed, or you could face up to 7 years in jail for saying the wrong thing. They now have billboards encouraging people to tattletale on each other. As a writer, I value free speech. As a tourist, I value freedom. I've read this out because it has a merit to it. Potentially, anybody in Scotland, even in their own bed, who says something that Hamza Yusuf doesn't like. And remember, Hamza Yusuf is the person who said that Scotland was too white, notwithstanding the fact that the Scots are a white race. Funny, if you went to Pakistan, whence I think he originates, and said, everybody has too brown. Why don't there so many brown people? We need more white people. That would be regarded as the ultimate in racism. But when he said it, he thought it was perfectly acceptable to say. Race baiting. And I love Scotland. I'm certainly not going to do anything to damage the interests of the Scots. Scotland is a marvellous country filled with marvellous people. But one way of getting that law repealed would be if everybody boycotted going to Scotland, because that law should not be allowed to remain on the statute books. It is extremely partial and extremely destructive of civil liberties generally. It is akin to the worst excesses of Nazi German laws, Soviet anti-free speech laws, the Stasi in East Germany, the Securitate in Romania, etc., etc. I would say, Alinka Ziermont, your point has validity. It does. It really does. It's a very sad day for me to have to say this, but it does. Not that I am discouraging people from going to Scotland, but if they did boycott Scotland, that would certainly give a message loud and clear to the politicians who are intent on destroying the Scotland we all know and love. And on that note, I'll say thank you very much for listening. I hope this has been of some interest to you. If it has, please keep the questions and comments coming in so I will know what you would like us to be speaking about. Okay? Thank you so much. Godspeed. And if you have truly enjoyed this, would you care to like, share, subscribe, press the notification bell, and take good care.